because the Lord is my shepherd,
All right, great evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Logos Connections Conversations That Matter. Our goal is to build Christian leaders one connection, one conversation at a time. Please follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube. We also want to remind you that registration is now open for the Healthy Leaders Summit 2.0. You can register at www.thehealthyleaders.com, but I'll tell you more about that later. Right now, I want to get into this conversation with these three heavy hitters. I don't know why I decided to do this with these three and not got somebody else to do this, but we'll see how this goes. But I think I'm in trouble. So tonight we have three fireballs. They're not Johnny or Joanne's come lately. They are the real deal. We have, first of all, Pastor Chania Dillard out of Baltimore, Maryland, my hometown, who is an ordained minister, itinerant elder in the AME Church, and a campus pastor for the University of Maryland for the United Methodist Church. And she is a former music educator, which she didn't tell you guys tonight, but she is that. She is a gifted young lady, and she can preach her socks off. So we welcome Pastor Chania. Not only do we have Pastor Chania, we have Dr. to be Tierra Parsons, Director of Counseling Services at Johnson C. Smith University, with over 20 years of experience in the mental health and human services field, including 11 years of dedicated service to higher education. She also is a licensed minister. And certainly last but not least, and let me go back, she is 8 months away from getting her PhD. So we want to celebrate her for that. So we have some heavy hitters tonight. Again, I want to reiterate, I think I'm in trouble, but we're going to be all right. And last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Karen Stallings, having earned a doctorate of arts in marriage and family therapy studies, has worked 30 years with young people and their families, and currently she is a school social worker and the founder of Heal My Wounded Place LLC, where she strives to empower and present tools where people are equipped to heal the wounds they cannot see. In addition to that, she also is a private therapist. She is most of all, she's a wife of one husband for 28 years. Good God, 28 years, and the mother of one son and daughter. So tonight, ladies, I am honored to have you, and I mean that. So thank you for accepting the challenge to have this conversation. So let me start out by asking you, how are you this evening?
Doing well this evening, Barry. Thank you so much for having us on tonight.
Pleasure to have you, preacher lady. Okay, preacher pastor lady. So let me start here. And I don't know who to ask this question first for, but here we go. So what are some of the threats to your mental wellness as a woman first? Because before you are a preacher, before you are a mental health professional, you are a woman, right? So tell me about some of the challenges that are really embedded or intrinsic to the experience of womanhood. Let's start with Dr. Parsons.
Great. How did I know that was going to happen? There are a lot of threats that surround us and circle us every day. But a main one that I've noticed just being in this higher ed and navigating other social spaces are gender-based microaggressions, where oftentimes we are interrupted, we are overlooked, we are underestimated. And sometimes that can really impact your mental health and your self-esteem, your motivation towards doing things. Are we good enough? You see other folks getting promoted and other things happening, and you're sitting here doing all the work behind the scenes, but not good enough to be offered said position or opportunity. So I'll kick things off with the microaggressions, which is something that we are dismantling every day by pushing back every chance that we get. At least I know I do.
So we coming out swinging like that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, so I might regret this, but I'm gonna let Preacher Shania go next. And the
Listen, ditto.
Right,
I,
right.
I could not have said that better myself, and I certainly do echo her sentiments. If I could add anything, it would certainly be the aspect of also being underpaid
Mm.
in comparison to our male counterparts. Um, and we're just starting, so we're going to be safe, and we're going to leave that right there. But in addition to all that, Dr. Parsons have said. I will also just add also underpaid.
Okay.
And
Talk
that
to us.
obviously impacts mental health too when you have a mortgage and
Oh, no doubt.
just a whole life to live.
No doubt. Yeah, it's real in these streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk to us, Dr. K.
So I'm saying, like, I think everything was said, right? But I just want to say something real quick. I've been married 34 years, not 28. So that's late. But
34.
that's my problem. In fact, it's Saturday. We've been married 34 years. 34
Wow.
blissful, happy years too. I got to say that too, because some folk
Absolutely.
is miserable, but I thank God that that's not my testimony. But and so on that note, that's another thing that I think we often have to navigate all of what was said, and then there's life, and then there's our
Hmm.
life, and then there's us doing what we have to do, because people have a sense of thinking that because you're in leadership, life is not happening for you. And so I think on top of all that was said, then there's life, and then there's navigating our own personal spaces, and all of the different roles that we play, in addition to everything else that was said. And those are definitely threats to your mental health and mental wellness.
So I'm going to transition because I believe that although all three of you are in ministry, and then two of you are in mental health field, but also really because Pastor Chania, you are in the chaplaincy, that's also mental health actually. So actually all three of you are in mental health. So let me ask you this question as both ministers and mental health professionals. Do you find it that it can sometimes be traumatic, showing up for other people and being a blessing to other people and serving other people, knowing that there are deficits in your own life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it comes with the age-old notion that if you are reverend anybody, minister anybody, leader anybody, someone that a whole bunch of somebodies look up to, it's not that you are devoid of your own problems, but I don't think that people think about the fact that you are also still a human being who also has your own problems, and life be life and you just as much as it does them. And so to still have to show up in spaces and still be on, so to speak, even when everything about you is like, oh, I'm off today. Today is an off day. Um, it can be a lot, and nobody. Sometimes people don't think to stop to ask like, how are you? And it
Yeah.
not be a perfunctory question to ask, but they are literally intentional about asking about your holistic well-being. And so, yes, absolutely. To be I believe, I think they would refer to us as the wounded healers. That's literally how we have to show up as wounded healers, oftentimes, but not necessarily all the time.
Okay, that's fair. And I asked that question because what I found before all four of us were on, it was just me and Dr. Parsons, and I was sharing with her how the beginning of the year was a challenge for me. And one of the things that I voiced to some people was that it's been traumatic, being a minister and seeing your prayers answered for other people, but yet you're like, God, what's up?
What happened to me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And if I
yeah.
could add, you know, it's like, I don't know if people believe us whenever we say that we're not doing okay. Um,
That
you know,
part, that part,
yeah, like
that part.
I'm showing up, but I'm
Hmm.
not okay. So I've learned to be honest. But one
Yeah.
of the things that gets me is if someone starts out asking me, hey, just calling to check on you, just making sure everything is good. Oh, but by the way, could you uh give me this or do this for me or do I'm just like, man, did you really call to ask me if I was okay or just, did you want me to do something for you? So it's just kind of navigating that space as well. But I've learned to just be honest with people and say when I'm not okay and how much time and space I need to kind of process and be with the Lord and things of that nature. And so I just wanted to add those 2 cents. So
I think that's necessary. And I think you owe it to yourself. One of the things that just became very apparent to me recently, I'm going to do some content on it soon, that if you are not engaging in self-care, then you are engaging in self-sabotage.
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, and I think, the definition of self-care means so many different things to so
Hmm.
many different people, right? Because I believe self-care has to be holistic. I
Yes,
believe
ma'am.
self-care has to be your body, your spirit, and your soul. And I think so often we think of self care and we immediately think of vacations or pedicures and things like that. And all of that is sure, it's a part of it. But to me, I think when you talk about self care, it has to be holistic so that every area is nurtured, is covered, is tended to, right? And then one of the other things I teach, Apostle, is that we often hear, Apostle, we often hear you have to schedule self care days. And I don't believe that. I believe that self care has to be part of your schedule. And so that's a whole different mindset. You don't schedule self care days. Self care is a part of your schedule. And so every day you make a list and you say body, spirit, soul, and you should be able to check every day a check in those specific places so that you can maintain yourself, because the reality is, and I know folks, especially us church folk, we don't want to hear this, but you can only show up as well as you feel, because superheroes are on TV because they're not real, and we're not superheroes. And so,
Really?
yeah, I know, but it's so important that there is a lifestyle of self-care, a
Absolutely.
lifestyle of self-care.
Absolutely. So I think we've touched on this a little bit, but tell me now we've transitioned from your challenges as a woman, but now as a woman in ministry, what are some of the challenges that are exclusive to your role? And I'm going to start with Dr. Chania.
Y'all gonna keep throwing that out there, and then
I really didn't mean to say it, but it slipped out, honestly.
Manifested.
you said it with
Right?
so much emphasis for it to be a slip up. Said it with some
Manifested.
authority. Like you already got that bass in your voice, but you said it with a little extra or something. Jeez. So I can only speak to my lived experiences. I can conjecture to what could be for other women, but I can only speak for my own lived experiences. Um, One of the things that I've found challenging as a woman in ministry, um, specifically as it relates to mental health, is I think that the Church Universal, not one specific denomination, but the Church Universal does a job in sometimes training leaders to ascribe to that Pauline theology of being all things to all people.
Uh-oh.
When in reality, you cannot be all things to all people all the time. Um, it hit home for me many, many years ago. Been doing this for a while, but many, many, many years ago. I was burnt out. Like, there's really no other way to put that. Like, I was literally running on fumes. And then grief met me in ministry for the first time. And this was about 10 years ago when one of my good friends passed away. And then the night before her funeral, where I was slated to do the prayer of comfort, my last living biological grandmother passed away.
Wow.
And in my mind, I felt numb, but I also felt like I wanted to die, because I'm like, who deals with this much pain at one time? And even the next day, I get to the church, I'm doing the prayer, and because I just started to compartmentalize just to get through the day, to get through that moment, and because of course you can't be a disappointment to the saints. And so I compartmentalized, and made it through the funeral, and then after that, I was ready to go crawl underneath a rock somewhere. And all I kept hearing was, "Well, Rev, we need you to come pray for this person, and Rev, we need you to show up for this person." And then it dawned on me, nobody ever taught us how to grieve. Nobody ever taught us how to take the time and the space that we needed for ourselves. Self-care was certainly nothing that ever came up in the Board of Examiners. It never came up in any of my seminary training. There was no teaching that said, take care of yourself whatsoever. And so that was something I had to learn literally like trial by fire. And so I believe that for me, I had to teach myself how to then make sure that my mental health was a priority as a woman in ministry. We've already outlined some of the things we have to contend with. And so if I'm going to still be successful in whatever it is that God allows me to put my hands to, then that means I have to prioritize my holistic well-being in as much as I do the actual work that I do.
Absolutely. Wow. Whoever want to tackle next? I know it's hard to come behind, but you know.
It is. I'll say, just for myself, it's balancing visibility and criticism and credibility, only because I do ministry in a different way. Like I don't have an assignment to a church, or I don't, get called to do, many speaking engagements, but my ministry is really boots on the ground with the youth and, doing that one-on-one ministry. And so the thing is, if you're quiet, or if you're behind the scenes and it's like maybe your work is not impactful, or maybe you're not, where you need to be in this space, and just making sure that, I center every aspect of ministry. Everything doesn't have to be out loud. There may be some things that you can do that's behind the scenes, one-on-one, and kind of helping people and leading people towards Christ, things of that nature. And so that's just been me, and that comparison factor. If you're not this, then you're not good enough to be in the same space with other powerhouses. And so that's just from my perspective.
No, it's good. That's good. I think one of the problems that we have in our culture is that we often don't celebrate uniqueness. We say we do, but we really don't. Dr. K, I know you got something to say. I apologize for interrupting.
No. I mean, it's all the things, right? It's everything. And I just think it's important that you're mindful of that you matter. And I think one of the things that that has been spoken here is the fact that we need community. You have to have community. You don't heal in isolation. You cannot survive in isolation. You have to have community. So you do have people, Dr. T said people that call and then say, oh yeah, and by the way, you need people to call you and say, like, how are you? And then take the time to listen to the answer. And they want to know the answer, and they're concerned about the answer. And then I think something that Reverend Dillard talked about is the whole, we don't teach people how to grieve.
You wanted to call her doctor, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did. Look, I had to look. It said Rev. I'm like, Rev, but anyway, but we don't teach people how to grieve. We don't teach people how to just be. We're so into performance. We're so into take off the mask, but no, you better leave that mask on. We just perpetuate so many things that it's a lot of jargon and not a lot of reality. Reality is I get tired just like you. Reality is that rest is holy for me, just like it is for you. I often tell leaders at the beginning of the year, when you're scheduling and planning that calendar, you need to be scheduling and planning your sabbaticals. And that's like, you know, I mean, and I could go on and on with this, but like our definitions for faithfulness need to be checked. Our definitions of what a servant is need to be checked. Our definitions of what family and the priorities of family and church need to be checked. And so all the things, and they're not popular. But if we continue to perpetuate what we're doing, then we're going to continue to have the same results. And so I thank God for raising up people to say, yeah, no, I'm not doing it like this
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? My heart is broken. I just buried my child. So y'all may not see me for 6 months. And I'm
wow,
saved, sanctified, filled, and I all the things, right? So like we've got to stop saying things like, where's your faith? It's here because I'm still here in my right mind. Oh, please no, my faith is still here, because if it had not been, you know, but we say we don't want performance, but we provoke and create people to
yeah.
perform, but that's a whole nother thing.
So I have a question for you. So all of us are 35 plus. So some of us are closer to 50 than others, i.e. myself. Um,
I myself
so- so- but
at
but
50.
but I want to be. We all have experience, but from your perspective, what would you say to a younger woman who is in your shoes, or who is taking the path that you're taking? What would you say to them? I know I just threw something in there. You weren't expecting that one, but I got another one
Oh,
too.
are you talking to me?
Whoever wants to start.
Oh.
I guess no takers yet, huh?
I would say be you. One of the first things I would say is God called you because he wants you to be you. Not the you, the performer, not the you that people want you to be, not the you that you was legalism may have raised you. You, he wants you. Yes, you know, sanctify. I hope everybody, you know, we don't use the words no more. Sorry, I'm showing my age. Yes, you loving him, serving him, but he wants you. You are enough. You are the one that he's chosen. And just learn how to be comfortable in your own skin. Like you are the prize,
Wow.
even in the place of ministry, and
Wow.
really understanding that and owning that, and learn the beauty of boundaries. They
Hmm.
are amazing.
Yes, ma'am. I love a good boundary. Yes, ma'am.
I would say, that you're not going to get everything right, the first time. It's okay. No one is perfect. Just bounce back, learn from it. If you have to apologize on some things, because truth be told, we don't get it right all the time. And sometimes you have to make that phone call and make that apology in order to get things right and to clear up some mental headspace in your life along this journey. The last thing I'd say is just don't compare yourself to anyone, because everyone's journey is different and you don't know what folks went through to get where they are today. So
That's good. That's good. Reverend Dillard, I won't call you doctor this time.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna just piggyback off of what Dr. Parsons said really quickly, because I literally say that all the time. Never covet what somebody else has, because you don't know what it took to get it, and you don't know what it's taking to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think that they've reached some pinnacle or they've arrived at some place because they've done something great. But it's like it takes just as much energy and strength to stay there or to try to reach the next, plateau, as it took to get or make it to that very first one. So definitely that. I would
That's
also
good.
say to trust. I would tell a younger person, another younger woman, like, trust yourself. While you trust yourself, be patient with yourself. Every room you enter, the reason why you're there is because you belong there. And so trust yourself, be patient with yourself. Again, as Dr. Parsons said, give yourself grace, grace to succeed, grace to fail, grace to try things and be okay with somebody saying they didn't like it. Okay, good. Somebody else might.
That's good. That's
Never
good.
take one man's no at face value, because for every no that one person gives you, there's at least 20 more yeses that somebody else will give you. And whatever you do, just keep going.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Just
good. That's
And
good.
I would just add, I would also tell a young woman to get a therapist, not because they need it, but because they deserve it. Take care of your mental health. That your mental health is just as important and is aligned with your spiritual health.
I agree. I agree.
Get a therapist.
I'll confess to you. So I started going to therapy in 2020 at the age of 44. I guess I was going on 45. I really wish I had done it years before, to be honest with you. I really wish I had. But I wanted something that I'm saying anyway, Dr. Dillard, something I said, um, something you said. You talked about trust the fact that you belong in the room that you're in. And when I was thinking about how it is so easy to slip into the imposter syndrome. So as women in ministry, how do you combat that?
I would just say in any space that I'm in, I have a gift that God gave me specifically. So I'm not trying to share anyone else's gift, because we all have a place in there. We all are interconnected. So just in this space tonight, we're building with each other in order to make the larger impact. So I look forward to sharing and coexisting. And I don't go in the room like I know everything and like have all the answers. I go in just sharing the gift that God gave me. And if I have to be quiet and learn and things of that nature, I'll do that too. But I just have to affirm myself. Affirmation is showing me that my worth came from Christ, and I have a light that also belongs in the room, so that we can all light up dark spaces in this earth.
So profound. Such a doctor.
I think when I was younger, starting out, which is why I can say this to somebody younger, when I would enter into certain spaces, I felt small.
Mm,
As though like the giftings and the anointings and the everything else from all the other women that were in the room were far greater than I was, and that I did not belong in the room, or I did not belong in the spaces. And the reality was I was invited to the rooms and I was invited to the spaces. It's not like I just wandered in there. But it took me a minute to acquire that confidence in myself, but mostly just more or less the confidence in the one who did gift me, the one who did
yeah.
anoint me, the one who did make that space for me to be in those spaces. I think for me, it was just a matter of over time, because it did not happen overnight. But over time, as I continued to be invited to those spaces, it was as if every time I went, God was reminding me, you're okay. Take a deep breath. You belong here. You're
Mm,
supposed to be here. And
hmm
I think that helped me to maintain a level of humility that has carried me throughout my ministry. It's been, God knows, almost 2 decades now. And I believe it certainly has carried me. And so while, again, to Dr. Parsons' point, I don't walk into a room and, with my chest puffed up, like I'm on a horse sitting real high, like, no, like bow and kiss the ring. No, I walk into a room and I'm like, all right, hi friends, how y'all doing? And I, navigate the space as though I am someone who belongs in it, and I don't carry a confidence that would indicate like Nia is all of that. No, but I believe myself in a way that would indicate that there's a God who told me who I am. There's a God who has covered me and has put their hands on me in such a way that yes, I belong in this room. I belong in this space. And while I'm in here, I might as well take up space. And it's
Come through. Come through, doctor. Come through. Take up space. I like it.
I just want to also add that sometimes, you have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's God's platform.
Yeah.
You have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that when it comes to our self-esteem and our self-confidence as leaders, it is tied to our alignment with him. And to downplay us is to downplay him, because the him is on the inside of us. And so we don't go in our own stead. We always go knowing that it's God's platform. But also, the clinician in me cannot not talk about how some of the times we feel how we feel, and it takes more than our alignment with the Father. In addition, some of those wounds that we've been carrying, we need to start processing too. Because there's some wounds and there's some histories and some narratives that God wants to heal. And so, in addition to the spiritual walk, sometimes those rooms can trigger spaces in us that we know we need to go a little deeper. And the deeper may be the space of counseling, the deeper may be the space of, a clinical space, because it doesn't mean that you're less spiritual, that when you understand that there's some things that I deserve to be taken care of. So,
That's good.
that is also very important.
That's
Yes.
good.
If I could just add, that was just, you got me going now, Dr. K. It's not lost on me that the enemy would want to keep us out of spaces,
Mm,
want to keep us depressed or anxious or feeling inferior or feeling overlooked, or even we get physically sick sometimes, or things happen in our family, or something that's going on with the job, anything to keep us distracted from doing what God has called us to do. Because somebody in that space needed to hear something, or they were going to go home and do X, Y, and Z.
Wow.
Right? So we have to always remember that what God has called us to do, no one can derail. You may kind of shake us up a little bit, but I'm going to the space and I'm going to do what God called me to do, because that's my assignment, to give glory to God, not to edify my name, not to make me great, but to show people how great God is. It's not in my own strength that I'm doing this, that I'm encouraging people. It's God through me, through the scriptures, encouraging people to go on another day, right? So if I don't do that, then I'm saying that God is not able to do things that I'm saying he's doing. So I don't have a choice but to do those things. But I also have the wisdom to love myself enough, take care of myself in the meantime, to do those things.
That's great. That's great. Let me ask you guys a question before we move on. Does anybody hear humming in the background? I hear humming. I'm not sure where it's coming from. Okay. All right. So let me ask this question. Do you feel like there is so much pressure to always be divine that there is no, that there you lack spaces to be human? Because I think a lot of times um, we we spend so much time, and we're supposed to be Christ in the earth. The Bible says all that. But the thing about Jesus that blows me away is that Jesus perfected being a human, a healthy, whole human, right? And sometimes we spend so much time trying to be divine or super that we fail to own our own humanness. Am I making sense? And somebody talk to that.
Yeah, you're
One,
making absolute sense. I think that the old adage is being so heavenly bound where we're no earthly good.
okay, okay,
I think what people fail to realize is that most of Jesus's ministry was not done in the synagogue, and it wasn't at the temple, it was in the marketplace. And so for me, again, can only speak for Nia. I don't get how we live in the temple in the clouds mentality all day, every day, 24/7. Like, I love Jesus, but that's not the topic of conversation all day for me. Like, yes, I'm an ordained elder, but I'm okay to just be Nia, even if you don't call me Rev, even if you don't call me Pastor, because when my time comes, it's going to be servant at the end of the day. So I'm not pressed, I'm not beat. And like you said, he perfected humanity. Literally, he sat among the ones that the church universal are the ones that are being rejected. He purposefully went to the houses of the ones we are deeming are unfit to be in our church spaces. Those are the ones that Jesus went and had dinner with. And so I think if we meaning the church universal, adopted more of Christ's literal living witness and living example of how we ought to be just among one another, nobody will be so heavily bound with their no earthly good. I personally, I don't, my inner circle of friends are not people who are so heavily bound with their no earthly good. Because I'm it being human it is what it is. It is what it is, and I think it's just so much. People put preachers on pedestals. Granted, some preachers put themselves up there. God bless those people. But people put preachers and leaders and pastors on pedestals. And the minute we do something wrong, the minute we sin, or because of course, the church folk, they cherry pick sin all day, every day. The minute we do something that goes against, your delicate sensibilities, then all of a sudden, there's another viral video going on. But at the end of the day, at what point does Jesus' example of what humanity is come into play? I love the fact that I have friends that I can be near with. I can let my hair down. I don't have to be on. I don't have to be rev. I don't have to come up with no scripture. When we at the table, I'm like, you do grace. No, you do grace. I'm off duty. You talk to the Lord for your own food. You don't know how to do that without a preacher. You can do that, right? And so I think it's important to have those spaces where you can just be.
That is so Baltimore.
All day, every day, twice on Sunday.
Yeah, that's I know it. Trust me, I know it well. Yeah, but I think it's important for us to have those spaces where we can be vulnerable. Where people recognize our divinity, they see who we are, they regard that. But at the end of the day, no, even Jesus had a circle that he could be vulnerable with.
Yeah.
So you need that. So I was just wondering, where do you have that space where you can be, where you don't have to always show up as the divine wonder, where you can be human, you can just be.
Most of us have to create those spaces. We have to curate them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's like some preacher support group that says life is life in you and you're a clergy. Come join our group. No, you have to curate your own spaces where you feel holistically safe.
Wow.
And it's beyond somebody just saying, oh, this is a safe space. Lies.
Huh?
Literally. It has to be a safe space.
Wow.
And if your spirit of discernment is where it should be, you can discern if a space is safe for you or not.
Yeah.
But this is why I say most of us have to curate, have to create those spaces for ourselves.
Fundamentally, that was the impetus for me starting the Logos Connection to be a safe place for Christian leaders. Yeah, I get that. So now I have another question. If you could go back and talk to the young Karen, the young Tierra, the young Chania, what would you say to yourself in regard to mental health? I love the pensiveness. In my head, I hear the Jeopardy song playing, but
I mean, it's a hard question. I wasn't really introduced to a lot of things around mental health growing up. I was, always in the church, things of that nature. And so I just never heard those conversations. And so I would say maybe starting back when I was in college, maybe when I was introduced to counseling, that it's okay to go and talk to someone, that you don't have to kind of process all these things on your own, because having someone else work with you and kind of break things down into more manageable parts could have helped me overcome a lot of things in regards to my esteem, or my confidence, things of that nature. And I didn't have to look to anyone else to tell me who I was. I could discover that on my own. So I say just to not be afraid or think that anything is wrong with talking to someone and kind of hashing things out instead of keeping it to yourself.
Can I say to that one of the problems, because we're all African American, one of the problems is we were taught to hide things. We were taught we don't air our laundry in public. We don't talk about family business. Meanwhile, family business is killing me.
Mm.
So
Yeah, to that end, and also to echo Tierra, like coming up in the 80s and the 90s, there was no such thing as therapy. There was no such thing as mental health. There was no such thing as counseling. Literally, everything it was, let's pray about it. Everything was, go talk to the pastor about it.
Revival.
Right. We back.
Pray harder. Pray
You
harder.
know, so
What would Jesus
we
do?
did
The
Tarian
bracelets, the
services.
bracelets, the
God,
bracelets. What would Jesus do?
We went to had the Tarian services. We were in church 6 days out the week. Like there was no such thing as it. And so now in my adult life, and I believe in praying, but I also believe in seeing my therapist for whom I see every other week. I believe in both. If there's one thing I would tell my younger self, it's okay to not be okay. Too often do we equate the lack of we equate fear with the lack of faith. And no, that's a sermon for another day. But they're not opposites.
yeah.
They are not opposites. But because if they were, then the Father in Mark chapter 9 would not have said, God, I believe, help my unbelief. Like obviously there was a wrestle there. And so I would tell my younger self, it's okay to not be okay. Like you don't always have to be on. You don't always have to show up for everybody. You don't always have to have a prayer ready for anybody who calls, who has a prayer request. They call almost every day. Somebody calls asking for prayer for something. You don't always have to automatically be readily ready and available all the time, 24/7. It's okay to not be okay.
That's good. That's good. Dr. K, talk to us.
So I wasn't raised in the church.
Okay.
So I would tell my younger self to, I wish that I had found Jesus a lot earlier. And I say that because of the path, but I'm very clear now why I had the path that I had. So I would tell my younger self, girl, you're going to get to the end of this thing and it's going to be all right. It's going to
Wow.
be all right. That there is a God that loves you unconditionally. And though you have sought and looked for and tried to find the it you're looking for, you will never find in the human that you're trying to find it in. But
Wow.
there is a Father that
Yeah.
will not abuse you, that will
Wow.
not negate you, that you will be seen, loved, and valued. And that as much pain that you feel, you're going to get to the other side of it.
I love it. I
That's what
love
I would tell her
I
because
love
the her is here now. Ooh, did y'all hear that? I heard an organ playing. Hey! Glory.
it. So I'm gonna start with Dr. Chania with this question. An experience that challenged your mental health, that stretched you, and I'm starting with you for obvious reasons.
Are we specifically talking about ministry?
Mm, yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Ministry experience that challenged my mental health. In 2024, July 1st, 2024, I was appointed to a senior pastorate with the United Methodist Church, wherein I was the first African American and the first African American woman to pastor this church in the church's 112-year history. Um, a complete moment of pride I had in embarking upon that appointment. But it challenged my mental health. because I did not expect to face as much racism as I did as a senior pastor.
Wow.
To be in a church that was 99.9% Caucasian, especially with the current administration, it was very challenging to preach to a congregation of people, many of which looked at me with looks of disdain on a Sunday morning,
Wow.
or to get emails, very mean and nasty emails, or messages of people leaving the church because my skin is brown. And of course, I'm like, of all the things, I did not think that my inherent blackness would be a cause for division in a church here in the 21st century.
Wow.
And so I talk to my therapist quite regularly, specifically in those first 6 months. Very, very regularly, like crying. Some days, even after church on Sunday, I would cry the whole drive home because I was just trying to figure out, God, what in the world have you gotten me into this time? And oddly enough, when I talk to my therapist, and I can't even say oddly, but I tearfully talked to my therapist in June of last year before the appointment started. And I said to my therapist, I'm cautiously optimistic because I do not know what my yes is going to cost me this time. And I don't think anybody will ever understand the cost of anybody else's yes. But I was thinking to myself, even in June, God, what is my yes about to cost me? And it certainly has cost me. But from a mental health perspective, it did a number on me mentally.
Wow.
And it became not even just an impact to my mental health, but also my emotional health, which unfortunately also spilled over to my physical health. When you see a doctor and they can't figure out why you've had migraine headaches every day for 3 months straight, every day, the whole day. So you're talking 90 days of constant pain. Medicine is not helping. And it's like, I would go, I would do, I would be in a community. I would still function, flow, and operate as a senior pastor. But privately, I was drowning and literally in my own sorrow,
Wow.
in my own despair. And at every turn, still wondering, God, what in the world? Why am I here? And so that is the most recent experience I can recall where my mental health was so severely impacted amid ministry. But I still did it.
That's powerful.
I did it. I completed the entire appointed year. And I'm certainly not an arrogant or cocky person by nature, but I pat myself on the back by the time I got to the end of the appointment, because it was so many times across those 12 months where, yeah, I wanted to throw in the towel, where I said, y'all can have this. I didn't sign up for this. So many times. I even had one of the members look me in my face and said, I'm surprised you haven't quit yet. And I was just like, wow. And so I told God, if you give me the strength, I want to finish what I started. And I did just that. And
I
I finished well.
First of all, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for having the courage to walk it out because racism is a beast.
It
It's a
is.
beast. There's an article, and I'll send it to you. There's an article that Time Magazine did, I think, in 2019, where they did a study on Dr. King and how racial injustice impacted his health. And the autopsy reveals that he had the heart of a 60-year-old man when he was only 39 when he died.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
I can only imagine.
wow. Which heavy hitter is next? Because y'all not playing fair.
I almost, might want to just table that one and just keep on going. No, that's really real. And, I just want to say, I'm proud of you for working through that moment and just affirm you. And just say that, you were there for a purpose and you carried that out and you made God proud. And so I'm proud to be in community with you for that. So definitely kudos to you. And I would say, like I mentioned earlier, I don't have many um, like larger ministry assignments, but if I do my like micro ministry assignments, I don't know if I just made that up, 101. Um, you never know how much strength you need from God until you're working one on one with someone who is on the brink of death, right? Um, it takes a significant amount of tenacity and courage to work with someone who is planning to end their life. Um, those that you prayed with and gave scriptures to and had, ministry moments with, and then they still get to the point where they're just like, you know what? I just don't, I don't want to be here anymore. That is tough to go to sleep and worry and wonder if you're going to see them the next day. But I realized that every single person that, I've worked with, God has kept here, right? I had to learn in the meantime what boundaries meant and that I couldn't be up 24 hours a day and, not take care of myself. That causes burnout really quick because I cannot save them, not me, not Tierra, but I can pray for them and ask God to protect them and to cover them and hope that the seed that was planted will bloom at its rightful time. And praise be to God, it has every time, but that takes a toll on your mental health for, over time if you don't stop and pause and take care of yourself. And so that's what comes to mind in regards to that question.
That's great. Thank you for sharing.
I, I'm just like, wow, I'm just so grateful to be here with y'all. I mean, it's amazing to hear the stories, and I thank God for spaces like this when you can hear um what God is doing and what he's done and what, because if he did it before, he'll do it again. And this is just, to be in a space to be reminded of that. So yeah, it's been a lot. I mean, when you talk about mental health and, we're talking about being women, and we're talking about, the spaces of racism. It's I just remember all, certain situations and scenarios where, you're questioned, how did you get here? You're questioned and looked at as if, you don't deserve to be where you are. I mean, it's been a couple of different scenarios, and then, Dr. Tapp talked about don't compare yourself, and I remember when I finally started. Be, learning the Lord and getting saved, and, became a pastor's wife, I struggled so much because I thought that I had to be like every other pastor wife that I saw. And so I went through a whole lot, and because I just wanted to fit a mold, but I never did. I never fit the mold. And so because of that, a lot of doubt and, not understanding that it was God's platform. And then, going through different things because people didn't believe you should be where you were. Like the beautiful story. Well, I don't want to say beautiful. It's beautiful because it has a happy ending, right? But yeah, so the and I don't even know if I'm making sense because so many different scenarios are coming to my mind, right? But I am just grateful to know that regardless, when you're rooted in Him, that you get to the end, that you get to the end of a thing. And that when people question you, and, I remember so many different scenarios where, you have to just wonder,
Hmm.
yeah. But then you just relax and know that God has you. So none of that made sense. But anyway, go ahead, Apostle.
Well, no, it made sense. So as soon as you said pastor's wife, I was like,
Woo.
ooh,
Yeah,
yeah, because that's a different kind of stress.
yeah, yeah.
So as soon as you said that, and then when you said something else, you said that pastor's wife piece, and when you talked about fitting or trying to fit a mold, and the thing that just resonated with me about the three of you is that the reason you can't fit a mold is because you are a mold, because you become the template for other women. So that's why. So when you are a mold, you can't fit a mold. So so I understood you perfectly. So you three heavy hitters, as we round up this conversation, first of all, I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for trusting me with your time, and I wouldn't abuse it. But share with me in 30 seconds or less what you do and what you recommend others do as ministers to protect your mental health.
I can just start and say that it is okay to say no.
Hmm.
I know we hear that a lot, but it's okay because if you don't, you rob them of the opportunity of growing in Christ, right? Maybe they need to learn some emotional intelligence or learn how to call on God, and maybe God is calling them that person to seek Him. So it is really okay. You only have one life to live, and you have to take care of yourself. It's okay, and if that person doesn't want to rock with you because of that, then were they really down for you anyway? So
Yeah. And I want to say this in reference to what I just said. And, one of you said something, I don't remember what it was, but I think it's when you were talking about going in rooms and occupying that space. But I think one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself as a gifted individual is own your uniqueness. Own it and celebrate it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Whoever's next, please share.
Well, Tierra was definitely took my answer. Dr. Parsons, excuse me, took my answer. That was it. No is a complete sentence. It does not require explanation. Um, but we're gonna pivot. So I think that it's it's beneficial for those who serve in ministry to, even if they don't, because it's not everybody's thing to go back to school to get degrees and certifications and things like that. But it would be beneficial, I believe, for all ministers, preachers, leaders to take some form of mental health training. Not everything is a let's just pray about it and slap some oil on somebody and then, and like that's not the answer to everything. No different than the police officers who detained people who had mental health issues and didn't know no better because they didn't know how to recognize some of the signs and symptoms of things. And so I think we would do ourselves good to take some courses, get certified in some things so that we can then recognize some things where we can even say, you know what, this is beyond my scope, to be able to tell somebody you don't need counseling with the preacher, you need to see a therapist, and to be able to point them in the right direction to give them the resources they need. When I was serving as youth pastor, for many years, I realized the importance of exactly what I just said. And so I became certified as a youth mental health first aid trainer. And then I also got certified in suicide prevention for the Black church.
Wow.
So, right.
Was it QPR or something different?
Something different. But again, having those not necessarily just the certifications, but just those training classes, many of which are offered free of charge or at or are nominal fees. I think that as preachers, pastors, leaders, ministers, we could benefit from taking those courses so that we can start to identify some of those signs and know, is this a moment that we need to pray, or is this a moment where I need to be dialing the number and sending you to a mental health professional?
That's good. That's good. Talk to us, Dr. K.
Amen. Amen. I believe ministries that are trauma informed are holistic. So ditto, ditto. Like that is so important because first of all, I really wish we would stop calling people demons, and everything is not a demon. So that's a whole nother thing. So one of the things that when it comes to mental health, right, I always say sacred rhythms. In other words, build rest into your life. You build rest into your life, right? And then I talk about doing emotional check-ins, literally, checking in with yourself and saying, how do you feel? What do you need? And then doing it, right? I think it's important to, like both of my powerhouse sisters have said, to understand the power of the word no, like they said, that there is grace upon that word, spiritual boundaries. The Bible says, guard your heart. That's a boundary. It's biblical. Do it, right? And then it's really important, I think, that we practice self-compassion and learn the beauty of not just always giving grace, but giving ourselves grace.
That's
And
good.
so that is how I would talk about mental health. And then, of course, I believe everybody should have a therapist, and not just because of a crisis, but therapy can not only, to me, therapy is like jeans. Like no matter what, y'all notice, no matter what season we're in, we wear jeans. If it's wintertime, we wear jeans. If it's summertime, we wear jeans. And to me, therapy is transseasonal like that. If it's a crisis, yes, it works. If things are going well, stay there so you can find out how things are going well. And then if it's a crisis, you get out the crisis. And so therapy is transseasonal. It is something that you can use in every season of your life. And as a leader, every leader deserves a safe space.
Yeah.
You cannot function in ministry the way God wants you to function if you don't have spaces where you can trust somebody with your nakedness.
Wow.
You deserve spaces that you can trust people with your nakedness. And so I think it's important.
I appreciate all three of the wisdom that you bring to the table, but I also, as a former English teacher, I appreciate your vocabularies.
That's Reverend Dillard, okay?
Listen, these vocabularies are fire. I love it. I love it. So let's go back to Dr. Karen. If you would just let our audience know where they can find you, how they can reach you, all those good things.
So my practice is Heal My Wounded Place, and it's www.heal my wounded place. And I'm on every social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and all of the social media platforms is where you could find me.
Awesome. Dr.
All right,
Parsons.
folks. I am only on Instagram at becoming_Dr. Parsons. If you want to email me at tiaramaparsons@yahoo.com, you can do that too.
Awesome.
So I too am on social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and I am on TikTok. I have to keep remembering that I'm on TikTok, but I am on TikTok. And I can be reached at rev.cdillard@gmail.com. LCSW.com.
Okay. Nobody has any books out yet, right? Anybody books? Any books or anything like that?
It's
don't
coming.
I
Okay.
only have book chapters or like journal articles of that nature, but not like a book.
Okay. Okay.
So I have a book, When Faith and Trauma Collide, which I talk about specifically when faith and trauma collide. And then I've written several ebooks, and so
Okay.
they're all on my website.
Awesome. 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 Well, again, I want to say, ladies, thank you. I respect you. I appreciate you. I value you. You are powerhouses, and I still think I should have got somebody else to do this, but I did it. We made it through with all these heavy hitters, so I appreciate you. And I want to say to the audience, thank you again for tuning into another Logos Connection, Conversations That Matter. Again, we want to invite you to Charlotte, North Carolina for the Healthy Leaders Summit 2.0, September 12th through the 13th. We have some tremendous voices that will share with us on matters of leadership and mental health and wholeness as a whole. We have Dr. Alan G. Porter, we have Dr. Peter Weary, Dr. Karen Stallings, we have a licensed clinical practical counselor also from Baltimore, Rashad Stallings, and a few others. So we're excited about that. The details are online. You can find all the information necessary about the different sessions and to register at www.thehealthyleaders.com. And if you have any questions, of course, you can email the logosconnection@gmail.com, or you can email me directly at bjelliott@simplybje.com. Once again, I want to say thank you again for joining us for another edition of the Logos Connections That Matter, the conversations that matter. And if the Lord says the same, we won't see you in August because we need a break, but we will see you in September. Everybody have a great evening. And to my guests, to our guests, I want to say thank you again for being who you are and what you do. Your voices matter.
Here's just my failing hand, yes. And he helps me to do what honors him the most. That's why I'm safe. That's why I'm safe.